supported the idea of a minister of state or junior minister for peace building and conflict prevention. Now what I'm wondering is, can we count on you to convene a panel or other discussion of the Department of Peace idea at your March Thinkers Conference?
I had been part of a thing called the International Commission on Sovereignty and Intervention, and one of the ideas that came out of that was the responsibility to protect, and many of you as students study this stuff in your work. And it's very simply the idea that if people are being threatened with ethnic massacre, ethnic cleansing, and torment in their own countries, other countries have a responsibility to intervene or help or assist. National sovereignty is not an excuse or justification for tyranny. And that, I think, informs my sense of Canada's role going forward. The reason that we think that it would be important for Canada to invest in conflict prevention and the promotion of peace is that part of what the doctrine of responsibility to protect involves is getting in there before they start killing each other. I've always had a feeling, and this is very personal to me, one of the moments when I understood this country, Canada, best was when I was in Bosnia, getting shot at by paramilitaries from 3 different religious and ethnic groups. And you began to realize how precious the achievement of civil peace has been in our country. And it's the great example that Canada has to promote in the world. And so that's why we strongly support beefing up in a substantial way our conflict prevention, our mediation, our peace promotion capacities as a government of Canada. And to the question about the March conference, yes, that will be a central feature of what we talk about, I think, on the final day of the conference. So thank you for your question.
To go back a little bit to your support of the American invasion of Iraq, when it happened, I know you wrote a very articulate retraction of that when the war wasn't going so well. But 2 statesmen that you respect, Prime Minister Ignatieff and Barack Obama, both opposed that war at the time. And I'm wondering why you, given the same set of data, the same material they had to look over, made the opposite decision and thought it was a wise course.
Thank you for the question. I got it wrong, and I've said so. Stephen Harper, by the way, got it wrong too and has never said so, but that's just leave it by the by. But your question is a good one. Jean Chrétien got it right, Barack Obama got it right. What was it that I had seen that they had not seen? What I had seen, and this I hope will be of interest to students more generally. I went to northern Iraq in 1992. That is the section of Iraq controlled by the Kurdish government. And I saw what Saddam Hussein had done to the Kurds. The use of poison gas, the use of torture and the devastation of the Kurdish homeland. And all I can say is it convinced me then that Saddam Hussein was a murderous tyrant. And I think what I've learned from the episode was that the fact that he was a murderous tyrant didn't justify the use of non-UN authorized force to get rid of him. And I guess the lesson I draw from this is you got to be very careful about the way emotion and passion and outrage can push you in politics. This is the lesson, I guess, for everybody in the room. What I saw was so searing, so revolting, so terrible, that I just thought we had to get rid of him any way we could. That's the straight up answer as to why I supported the Iraq War. But the costs, the destruction, the chaos, and the unauthorized use of force by the UN, I think, produced consequences just as terrible as his continuation in office. That's how I see it now. And so all I can say is I've learned a lot from that episode. Okay. Thank you for the Let me start slightly, well, let me say first of all, and this is not what you want to hear, I think we have to make a sharp distinction between the aspects of the manufacture and production of marijuana and other drugs in this country that are controlled by organized crime, pushers. You asked the question, let me wait for the answer. I am strongly in favor of strong penalties to control that. You're just not going to get me to go where you want me to go. What I don't want to do is have young lives ruined by vexatious prosecution for small amounts of possession. That's the second thing. The third thing is on the more serious issues of addiction, where I have profound disagreements with the conservative government, is in their handling of the inside issue and harm reduction strategies. I'm strongly in favor of harm reduction strategies, and this government has chose to take the inside program to the courts rather than reinvest in harm reduction strategies of all kinds. One of the things I see across the country is a tragic and terrible shortage of addiction care and addiction rehab programs. And you feel that very strongly, oddly, when you're in a police cell. You're in the police cells at Calgary Police Station with the Calgary Police, and they show you a young person shivering in detox on the floor of their jail in Calgary, not from cannabis, from tougher stuff than that. And you think, and the police chief says to you, this young woman shouldn't be here. And I 100% agree with her. We've got to have a country in which we address the issue of addiction seriously with investment and resources.
I just think you said a little bit. My real question is, will you either legalize cannabis or stop supporting the conservative government?
I will not legalize cannabis, no. What is Canada's role? Let's start with one thing that's on all of your television sets right now. The people delivering humanitarian aid to Haiti right now are on destroyers, C-17s, right? Unless you have a military that is able to respond at 24 hours notice, we can't show the world the Canadian conscience and Canadian concern. So that's the first thing. Everybody who thinks it's going to be easy, oh, we just cut back the military, forgets what Haiti's taught us this week. You need to go in 12 hours. You need to turn it around right away, right? DART's got to be on the field at Port-au-Prince within hours of this thing going out. And to do that costs money. It costs money to keep them ready. It costs money to buy a C-17. It's a hell of a big expenditure. But if you want to keep Haitians from starving, we have to stop. One of the things I feel very, very strongly about is we should never have a military that should be used for invasion, occupation, or conquest. And this relates to the question about Iraq. That means that Canadian forces can only be committed in an offensive role overseas with the approval of the United Nations. Let me add something else which will be much less popular, since I believe one of the obligations of a politician in public life is not always to say what you want to hear, right? I just believe if Canada makes a promise to protect civilians overseas, and that's essentially what I think we use our military for, to protect people in danger overseas, they have to be combat capable. That's the tough stuff. We sent Romeo Dallaire into Rwanda with a beret and a sidearm, and without the mission to protect civilians, and that wonderful Canadian had to watch helpless while 800,000 people were chopped into small pieces. We never want to do that again. If Canada sends the military out to protect civilians, we send them with the equipment and the mission to do the job.